You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
We're supposed to create and enhance conversations, and that's why we're here, just like the lead-in said. This is the Footwear Industries Podcast, the number one footwear podcast globally focused on business. Number one because we declared it and we claim it. Today I'm joined by my co-host, Sandy Mines. Sandy, today's episode I'm really excited about. Every episode I'm always excited about. I feel like I'm David Letterman. It's like, great show tonight, folks. Great show. But it's always a great show. And we appreciate everybody coming back every Monday to listen to all these fantastic conversations. We started this podcast years ago because we were out at Effin Platform, which was then Effin Platform at Magic. And we just had such a great conversation. We're like, gosh, we're getting the benefit of having all these one-on-ones with all these executives and all these great solution providers, but other people who can't attend aren't getting this. And that's where the podcast started, and that's where we are today. And once again, we're going to have another great conversation. So I'll let Sandy tee it up for us. Sandy?
Great. Thank you, Andy. I'm really excited to be co-hosting with you today. We have two great speakers joining us. Matt Schwartz, the Chief Revenue Officer of Aetrex. Welcome, Matt. And Jeff Stern. Sure. And Jeff Stern, the Senior VP and Brand GM at Rocky Brands. Welcome, both of you, to our Shoe In Show podcast. I'm going to start by asking you to say hello to everyone and share a little bit about your shoe story, how you entered the footwear industry. So, Matt, we'll start with you.
Sure. So, my entry is not dissimilar to lots of people in the industry who came to footwear via family, one way or another. My grandfather and his brother, who were two Hungarian immigrants, came over to New York and really started our heritage business, which was called Apex. My father was in the business, and it's my brothers and myself who've been running the business for a few decades now, but it's in the blood, so to speak. So I've been around it my whole life. We kind of consider ourselves the foot geeks of the industry. We came from a place where our ancestors basically made products that were, our forebears made products that were all about understanding how to personalize the inside of footwear for feet. And we've kind of taken that and run with it over the years.
That's great. Thank you, Matt. I hear you loud and clear. My father has been in the business for way too many years and decades, I'm sure you know, and ran a slipper factory in New Jersey, in Hackensack, New Jersey, for a very long time. So you're not alone.
In Hackensack too.
Yeah, you're not alone. There's many of us that are family and friends, and now I consider the footwear industry as like one big happy family, right? So
really, it's amazing how many people have a story like this.
You're right. And Jeff, talking about footwear families, sure. I'm sure you could share a little bit about your background and how you entered the footwear industry too. So please share.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sandy. And thanks, Andy, for having us here. So mine is a little less family oriented, but joining a family business. So I was brought in by the CEO of Rocky Brands about 13 years ago, and I was not a footwear person at all. Rarely looked down at my feet and really was concerned about what people were wearing until then. And when he brought me in, it's kind of funny. He said, look, we're going to start you out easy in this business. We're going to put you in our duty business. So all you got to worry about is black shoes. That's it. Don't worry about colorways. Don't worry about all the fashion. Just worry about black boots. So that's where I got my start 13 years ago. And I've had numerous roles within this organization since then. And currently I'm in the Lehigh Outfitters role, which is more of a retail focus.
That's great. Well, welcome. We're really excited to have you both here. We have a lot to cover. I know Andy has some pressing questions about 3D foot scanning and how your business is evolving and what's on the horizon. So I'll let you start off with some of the hard-hitting questions, Andy.
Yeah, we know from the data that we collect, there's two channels growing. It's family footwear retailers at brick and mortar side, and it's e-commerce. And obviously, we had this thing called COVID. It's still around. We may pretend that it's not around in America, at least, but it's still around. But we saw the tremendous growth that happened because stores were closed for weeks on end. And that's continued as customers socialize themselves to shopping online, buying online. I think the challenge is what the data also shows is the high return rate that we see. So a customer may buy several pairs of the same type just to test the fit and the feel and ship it back. So, in e-commerce today, what's really interesting is, companies are doing a really good job with the aesthetics. You can see what the shoe looks like, right? With the colorways but the fit and the feel is still a challenge. And I know you guys have been working on this for many, many years. So maybe you can just tell us kind of the pathway around this idea of 3D fitting to where we can get a better fit, especially through e-commerce channels and the benefits that have been borne out at some of the brands and companies using it.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. It's a challenge, understanding how to do fit online. That's very central to what we've been developing over the years. So maybe I'll start by way of an analogy, like a intuition plug, which is, if you imagine to yourself some kind of scenario where a friend is asking you to find a package for them for a water bottle. So let's say it's a Yeti water bottle. You picture one that you're familiar with, and they say, I need a package that fits this really well. And she takes a string and she puts it at the bottom of the water bottle. She pulls it to the top and she makes sure it's the right length. And she gives it to you and says, here you go, find me the right package to fit that water bottle. You'd be like, well, I don't know what to do with this. It's a string. It's just giving me one dimension. I can't use that. And she said, okay, let me get you another dimension. She measures the bottom of it and she gets the width and she cuts a piece of loose leaf paper that gives you those two dimensions. And she says, here you go. Find me a great package for this Yeti water bottle. And of course, the answer would be, hey, I don't have enough to work with. And if you think about it, a question you might ask yourself is, well, why have we gotten away with that for so long? I would say 95+% of the footwear business is the string. So how do we live with the string for so long when we're fitting something far more complex than water bottles? Our feet have a quarter of the bones of the human body. They have hundreds of muscles, ligaments, and tendons, and literally no two are the same in the world. They're different. They're completely unique. So why have we gotten away with this? Well, the answer is that we went to stores. It's really simple, intuitive, and we went through a process of trial and error. We tried on shoes, and we decided, on our balance between the way it looks and the way it feels, whether it was good enough for us. The challenge, as you say, Andy, and you're 100% right, is in e-commerce, we can't do that. We don't have the ability to try on the shoes. So length and width really aren't good enough. And I think that a common confusion in the industry for people who are trying to think about how to solve this problem is they think the question to ask is, how do I tell my consumer when they're shopping online what's the right size? But that's the wrong question. If you think about it for your own, from your own experience, I'm a men's 13 and I order men's 13 shoes online all the time. And they often don't fit even though the size is right. That happens to me all the time. And it's because shoe fitting isn't about length. It's about matching the shape of our feet to the shape of shoes. And that's the problem we're solving. That's why 3D scanning matters so much. And what we want to do, what we've done, is I'll explain in a minute. The product is finished. It exists. It's live, on websites. But picture as a consumer, if when you're shopping for shoes, you could have the shoes scored in terms of how likely they are to fit your feet. So the last time I was shopping, I was looking for a pair of athleisure shoes like a gazillion other people out there. And I clicked on navy blue and I clicked on leather and I selected price range, $100 to $150 and 4 stars or better reviews. And I drilled down to the page. Now imagine that one of the things I could do is I could see for every shoe that was within that category, oh, this shoe is a 90 and this is an 88 and this is a 76 and so on and so forth. I could even sort it by that. Well, I might make a decision then and say, I'm going to get the 85 instead of the 90 because I like the way the 85 looks better, but it's got a very high likelihood of fitting on my feet. So there's this very tangible benefit to consumers, which is very simple to understand. It's a better shopping experience. So the last time I bought shoes, true story, I got my shoes. They looked like clown shoes on my feet, even though just the shape of them was wrong for me. I had to return them and I still don't have shoes. And I'm going on a trip. It's a pain in the butt. It's going to be weeks of shopping and a lot of expense and inconvenience. Now that's the consumer side. On the retailer side, as everybody knows, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this in other podcasts, e-commerce returns are 30+% of the business, right? That's the return rate, 30+%, higher than almost any other category for e-commerce. So what does that do? It eats into profit margins for this incredible part of businesses, whether it's multi-brand retail or mono-branded e-commerce retail. And we can not only help retailers have this kind of first mover advantage where they have this incredible, easy to understand experience for their consumer online, but we can reduce returns and we can help increase profitability of their footwear business. And one last thing, and then I'll pause. But I want to just emphasize too, this isn't like, just talk about the future. This isn't like thought, leadership or something. It's done. The product exists. It's live. It's created. It's on Aetrex. It's on a number of international retailers. We have a whole slew of retailers who are, currently in the process of setting it up for their own e-commerce platforms. Jeff is one of them. So we're excited about it. We've been working hard on it. Or, we have this great tech team, and, we never stopped during the pandemic, and all the different facets of this have been kind of created, and they're there ready to be executed on by.
Maybe we can ask Jeff. Jeff, are returns a problem? I mean, maybe you can speak from the retail side and what you're dealing with in terms of business operations and then what this new tool and this new software can help with.
Absolutely. And so for those who don't know, the Lehigh business that we operate here at Rocky Brands services primarily industrial and commercial customers, and we manage their safety footwear programs for them. So think of us as replacing the old trucks that used to be the shoe mobiles that would go out. We used to operate more than 100 units of rolling stock going into facilities and fitting people and carrying literally thousands of pairs on site. And that was very inefficient, though it could be effective in fitting people, but not always having the product they needed. So yes, in the nutshell, our business is getting it right the first time. And that's very difficult to do without actually sliding that foot right into the shoe and saying, yep, this works. Funny thing about safety footwear is it's not always quite as comfortable as casual footwear too. And sometimes it takes a while to break in. So we have those issues as well. But we adopted the Aetrex scanning systems about 4 or 5 years ago, and the goal was to reduce the number of returns that we had. And we were in a unique environment where it wasn't convenient for the employees of the customers that we have to order multiple pairs as they do on a lot of commercial sites. They were given one subsidy, so it's one pair. So that meant you were exchanging single pairs. So that's even more cost out the door. And, when we originally started in this business, our return rate was north of 20%, pretty consistently. I can tell you that now we are currently in the 7 to 8% return rate now. And that's through utilizing equipment like Aatrex and other online tools to get the size right the first time. And so it is a huge issue with us because we're paying the freight. Our business model calls for free freight, so free returns, free shipping. All of it's free with us. So we bear the cost of that. So we have a very strong vested interest in reducing our cost in returns. And so these types of technologies are very interesting to us. And the Aatrex system has been phenomenal in helping us achieve those lower return rates.
That's amazing, Jeff. That's transformational, right? I mean, I know that I've been working with Aatrex for a long time. I know that they are the initiators in scanning and collecting data. but you've also had recent developments and you've evolved and you've created some new technology. Matt, can you go back and talk a little bit about some of that new data that you're collecting and what that means?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of interesting and fascinating changes to the tech we've been working on. If it's okay, maybe I just want to kind of set context for a second with an analogy. Sometimes I think about innovation. So when I'm thinking about innovation, I mean product innovation. I'm talking about the creation of new value for consumers. That's what I mean by it. And you have all different kinds of incremental innovation. So, a simple example that anybody, listening can relate to is the iPhone. Every fall, Apple comes out with a new iPhone, and there's an incremental, creation of new value. There's a better screen. Maybe it's bigger. Maybe it's got better pixelation, a better camera, new microchip, something like that. And the footwear industry, is really mostly incremental innovation. It's somebody has a new foam or a new plastic or a new construction. Incremental innovation happens all the time, which is wonderful. And a lot of our scanning, evolution has been like this as well, where you have incremental steps and improvements in the technology. Then you have a different type of innovation, which I don't know what the right word is for it, but let's call it transformational, something like this. And picture the difference between your flip phone and your iPhone. And what makes this possible is maybe it has to do with the potential life of the battery, or maybe it has to do with, innovation with touchscreen technology and innovation with the internet. So, you could also, another example that comes to my mind is streaming music services. We all remember downloading discrete files onto our iPod, right? But suddenly I have millions of songs at my fingertips that I can play no matter where I am, anytime I want. And what made that possible was cloud computing, which has to do with advances in servers and really cellular technology, LTE. It wasn't possible before the strength of the signal was that good. So transformational changes really rest on broader innovations in the market. And what's happened for our businesses has been a few really important innovations. And it has to do with advances in 3D cameras. It has to do with advances in artificial intelligence and advances in 3D printing. And we've been able to seize on those things and create a product that captures just an incredible amount of data. And what's exciting is we're soon going to be up to 16 points of 3D measurements of the foot, including things like the height of your instep, the height of your arch, but not only the girth of your midfoot, but the girth of the ball of your foot, the girth of your ankle, etc. So tons and tons of data. We also get an enormous amount of data under the foot. And as a brand, we actually use this data to try to create products that have healthy benefits that wouldn't be available without it. And so near and dear to our hearts is the idea that you can use these rich sets of data to deliver consumer products that have benefits that wouldn't be available to them without it. And what we're doing is we're creating the ability for our partners to access all of this data to use for their product development. And, just knowing what that's looked like for us, I can't wait to see, what incredible brands are able to do with it, to make products that have benefits that would never be available without it. You think about how lasts have been made. They've been made the same way for, I don't know how many decades, but it's all the same. And the data you use to make the lasts is very scarce. It's based on sales data and not that much change there. So here we can make, products with really rich information. You could even, with this portal we've developed, you can even go in and say, hey, I want to look in Japan and I want to see a woman with a size 5, what's the ankle girth on average for that size? And things like this, really, really down to a drilled down level. So I'll say one other thing about it that I personally am excited about. On one level, there's the ability that it's still open for people to create out of this information that's never been available before. We have tens of millions of scans. We'll be at hundreds of millions sometime soon. A second part of it that's interesting, and that's also near and dear to Aatrex, is about personalization. Our business has always been about understanding, how do I deliver personalized function in footwear. So I'm a big fan of Nike's product where I can design fashion customization. I can choose my colors and my materials, and it's a great product. And they've done amazing things with the supply chain there. But this is about functional customization. I mean, we can print under the foot for every centimeter squared, and this is all exists. We can print different structures depending on what kind of pressure you have. And we can even print different supports depending on things like what degree do you overpronate or supinate at different points of the foot. So the remarkable things you can do to deliver consumers personalization in their footwear to help their bodies function better.
Yeah, and maybe I need to get a new measurement because my footwear girth during COVID has increased substantially, and I'm trying to work on that now over the summer months to get that back down. But Jeff, as we talk about this data, I mean, we're constantly talking about consumer data, right? How do we get to know our customer better? How can we better tailor our product to it? So as Matt's talking about this, I can just think of the data that you can get back on what your customer is, and look at where the most volume is on sizes, and start to reorder and start to change your operations around that. Maybe you can just touch a little bit about how the data and the obviously the consumer engagement's really good because the footwear is fitting and you see less returns,
right?
But also, how has this kind of been able to inform what you're doing at the business level?
So look, there's a myriad of ways that you can use this big data. We've known big data is coming, and it's here. And this type of information for us is, not to use a hackneyed phrase, but it is game changing because it does impact everything from the end user, the customer's experience, all the way through to supply chain and which styles we're ordering and what sizes we're ordering, and in what quantities we're ordering particular products. It also allows us to spot trends, and in terms of footwear construction, and as well as for physical trends. I mean, we all know that the average foot size has been increasing for a number of years now, and we can see all of that in the data, and that does influence the purchasing that we do, the stocking that we do. So, to kind of go back to some of what Matt was talking about with the customization, we're right on the cusp of everything that Aetrex is doing, and we've got the Fit Genius product coming out where this is literally within days. We're going to be able to recommend to an end user the actual footwear. And when you start talking about the industrial footwear that we do, the functional footwear, it's really important to get that right fit. And we're recommending and giving them the rankings so that they can make an informed decision, particularly if they're not that well versed in safety footwear. And so this has been for us really enlightening, and for our consumers, they're just delighted by it. When they come in and see the scanning devices, they're almost giddy because they realize they're on the cutting edge of getting the right footwear the first time, and they don't want a long process of in and out. So this has been for us a very, very important advancement.
We launched our first scanners in 2002. And an interesting thing about the business, just to kind of, because it's really, really true in a way that's hard to explain, but you go back to those first generations and we had these pressure scanners and we would use infrared LED technology to measure length. But at the time, all these, things like 3D cameras and AI, it really didn't exist. So, what would we do with the data? We had printers that would ship these machines and you could print out every scan with all the data. We had one point where we had these little CD-ROMs and you would buy this old, it had like one of those tube monitor screens and you could burn the data onto the CD-ROM that went on a business card thing that you could stick in your wallet. But it's always been the same, like going down this road about trying to get personalized data about feet.
So if I'm a new customer of yours, how easy is it to get you set up and created a customizable program? Tell me about initial steps. So if someone's listening in today or you're sharing with some new customers or prospective clients or whatnot, how do the first steps work? How do you get set up?
It's pretty uncomplicated. I mean, we have a large sales and support team. So we would set somebody up as a customer, and the technology, we actually sell the hardware below cost for our business. And so we have, our products well, we believe they're really the cutting edge of scanning technology, and that's, you can test different scanners and see what we mean by that. They're a fraction of the price of the competition. So you spend a few $1,000s. An Albert 2 Pro right now is $2,500. You buy a scanner. It's pretty plug and play. And we actually have a B2B website that's kind of like if you buy a Peloton bike, you just go on, you click a bunch of things, and it's super, super simple to use. And then we have an enormous online academy with hundreds of videos. We have weekly webinars. We have a large sales team, over 30 people in the field. So, one thing we pride ourselves on is being there for our partners to really, even though we think the program's pretty plug and play, but we know there's turnover and there are questions and it's something new and it's, old habits that you're breaking with people who sell and fit shoes. So we have all these different techniques we use to help people. From that perspective, on the Fit Genius side, with the plugin that lives in the website, we have a team internally that works with the e-commerce department of our partners, like with Lehigh, and that's relatively, that's pretty easy too. It's in that case, you're also dealing with whoever's your web provider, whoever you're working with for your e-commerce platform. But yeah, so Jeff, maybe you could speak a little bit too to what it's like.
Yeah, we've worked very closely with them to understand all of the data, and we've had to write a lot of our situation's a little unique because we create catalogs for every one of our customers. So it's not like we have one catalog and we say, okay, here's our product and you can upload it and it's fine. We have literally thousands of catalogs, tens of thousands of catalogs, because we create a unique one if the customer needs just protective toe and they only want to have a composite toe, rather no steel, no alloy. We can create these unique catalogs of product, and so every one of those has to be done uniquely, and that required working closely with Matt and his team to do that. And then that way we can serve up the rankings within just that category. And so there might be 50 shoes in that catalog, or there might be 3,000 shoes in that catalog. And all of those then have to be ranked for that one customer and that one employee at that one location. So we're pushing a lot of data back and forth. The APIs that we've written have been lots of them to make sure that we have all this information brought together at one point and then served. And so it's, when you break it all down, it's pretty amazing what we're being able to deliver in terms of the data and the horsepower to each individual who wants to have a uniquely fitting shoe. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on to make that happen and appear seamless.
Yeah. And I've got a little marketing tag for you guys. I don't know, Whitney can write this down for you, and I'll give this to you for free. But you've got comfort, confidence equals conversions, right? So when you're using the system, what's the conversion? When a retailer is looking at this and they adopt this technology, economics is a big thing on this. What's my ROI if I use this? Do you guys have some numbers on that?
Jeff, why don't you start? Since you're.
Yeah, so I mean, we're a little different than pure retail because we have a captive audience, and we convert very, very high rates of employees. I would say, generally talking just about orthotics, if we talk about when we scan and we want to do an orthotic, not just the footwear fit, but if we just throw the orthotics in, probably 1 in 4 of the people that we scan easily will purchase an orthotic product because they see the value in it and we can demonstrate value to them immediately with it. As time goes on, that number actually goes up as it does, and the repeat sales are very, very high on those as well. So it's providing value in getting their feet perfectly fit for a shoe, and our business is structured around getting them in the right shoe with the right orthotic and the right compression sock, and that's what we call building a foundation of success. And that's
confidence and comfort. I just said it. Confidence and comfort. There you go.
Conversions. I can tell you too, just from the perspective of what's intuitive. I mean, if you if you go through this process in a store, and it's very fast and it's really high tech, you do a scan and boom, your feet are in front of you in 3D. I took my shoes off, standing there. I have this cool experience. Am I more likely or less likely to buy a pair of shoes? And their question for sure is, it's remarkable the increases in conversion rates for footwear just by giving the consumer this experience.
Yeah. Let me ask you, and I know we're about to wrap up here, but I want to look at the future too, because you talked a lot about the progress that's being made and all the innovations. I mean, and I'm excited about what the future holds, because we've got 5G coming online, and we've got all these amazing things that we can start to do electronically because of connections and the capacity with all the new innovations. I'm wondering in the future, as you look at this, and you were talking earlier about having like that fit information on a card. In the future, do you foresee where someone will be able to create like obviously if I go on Google and I'm shopping, it's got my address, it's got my information, so it's just kind of like it fills in the blanks for me, right? Are we going to have something where we have a profile that can go across all websites that has my shoe fit and can automatically start to inform me about, the best fit regardless of retail? And obviously there's probably a lot of work to be done around that.
I'll tell you what, Andy, I'm impressed. You put that right together, just like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the answer is, the simple answer is for sure. And, look, you think about, we have consumer space travel, and we have self-driving cars, and I hold millions of songs and potentially millions of books on this little device in my pocket, right? Like, we do all we're talking about here is being able to tell a consumer how likely shoes are to fit their feet. Nothing is complicated. And that's not to say that the people developing it aren't remarkably smart. They have advanced degrees from great universities on our team and all this, but it's done. Like, it already exists. It's created, it's live. It'll be live with Lehigh soon. It's live with Aetrex and other retailers. So yeah, for sure, that's here, and how it evolves for consumers, it'll play out over years. I do believe in my heart that this is a better experience for the consumer. The consumer is the most important part of kind of the chain, right? They fund everything down the supply chain. So for if you're a consumer and you have shopping option A and shopping option B, but on one of those options you have this less likely to return experience where would you rather shop there? And there are companies who are lining up and signing up to seize this and to be first and to have an advantage over their competition. And that's the way it's going to work. They're going to get the advantage. It's going to incrementally improve their bottom line and the size of their e-commerce business. And other brands will start noticing it. And then over time, as this stuff plays out, it'll become standard.
Yeah. I mean, we already see some of that, right? Because I think a lot of what the conversation around is reducing friction to sale, right? How do we create less clicks and more certainty and more confidence in our brands? And we already see it with Amazon, right? I'll click a product and it's like, buy it, swipe right. And it's like, all right, I'll swipe right and it's going to come in. I don't have to do anything else.
Amazing.
And we're at the point now where it's like, I want to go into a website and I only want to see what fits me. That's it. I don't need to see. I'm sure people, and Sandy might disagree. She likes to explore and see. I don't like to see things that don't fit. I just don't care. I need something quick and, functional. And I just want to see what's in inventory. And I want to be able to hit a button and say, yeah, those look good. Boom. And it just ships, right? Like, it knows my fit. It knows my address. It knows my credit card. God help us all. It making it a little too easy. And especially if you can spread the payments out over 4 payments for a pair of $50 shoes, that's even more dangerous, but God bless America. Right. So this, it's exciting to see what's happening with this, but it really does come down to capturing that data from the consumer. And we talk so much at the retail level about, understanding, is it a mom with 2 kids, and where does she live, and what's the income, and like what's she likely to buy, what's already in her closet. But it does add this extra layer of, telling her, your kids, and this is going to be otherworldly when we can get to this level, and maybe you guys are working on it. But your kid's foot grew 3 inches on average over the last 3 months. It may be time to go out and buy a new pair of shoes and rescan the foot and make sure it's updated. And I think that'll be revolutionary in and of itself. But it's fun to think about, the future and the fact that you guys are building that now so that people can take advantage and really optimize. Because I think we're in a tough retail space and tough retail environment where we're competing. All the products are competing against other products, right? So not just footwear, but we want to make sure we get the biggest share that we can in our industry, and it really does require innovation to start to get there. So kudos to you guys for the work that you've done, getting those huge computers down to pocket size. Amazing. Jeff, I know it's, and I'm glad we had Jeff on because it's like one of those things that if you can get a work boot, and especially, a functional shoe. We're not talking about a casual shoe that has a little bit of give and it's nice. You can wear it to brunch and enjoy it. But like a functional shoe you have to have and protect yourself. So it's fun to hear that because I think that's probably a complicated case study to start with and get around and solve that. So Matt and Jeff, thanks for coming on today and sharing what's happening and the solution that you guys have.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been
Andy, Sandy, thank you both for having us on.
Absolutely. And as always, we tell people on Shoe and Show, our Kicks Over Coffee, our webinar series, everything, do a demo. Don't wait. Like if you have questions about this, reach out. FDRA can put you in contact with the right people. But do a demo, learn more about this. I mean, I'm a big believer in, learning as much as you can about everything that's out there to see how it can help your company. And obviously Aetrex specializes in footwear and can come in and like really help. And my guess is they have worked with enough retailers that could help you in other aspects as well. And I think that's really where there's benefit of saying like, oh, like you're doing this, maybe you should be doing that. So there's a lot of value in talking to folks in our industry. And I think we're lucky to work in an industry that's very relational and is trying to help each other in many different ways. So with that, folks, this is the Shoe and Show. Shoeandshow.com is our website. You can go back and see over 300 episodes of all these great conversations that we've had. There's a lot of nuggets in there, even if it's 5 years ago, around leadership and culture that still matter, I think, in our industry. And along the way, we've had a lot of fun, a lot of great conversations. So we appreciate you listening in every single Monday. What I would love for you to do is go to your colleague and either Zoom them right now and tell them to listen in, or go next door if you're in the office and grab them and shake them and tell them to listen to Shoe and Show every single Monday. We'd appreciate it. And until next time, on behalf of Sandy and myself, thanks again for listening. Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.